here we are in the old Western Port.
In the calm,
Those are down there.
October 24th, 2025, West Virginia. A quiet evening turns into a nightmare. Within minutes, calm mountain towns are swallowed by water. This is the night the mountains broke. Started like any other rainy night. Soft drops tapping on rooftops, the smell of wet earth in the air. But then the wind picked up, and the rain didn't stop. In just half an hour, almost 4 inches poured down over places like Wheeling and Fairmont. Creeks turned into rivers. Rivers turned into monsters. Cars, homes, and even bridges disappeared beneath the flood. By the time people realized what was happening, it was already too late. In Wheeling, cars floated down the streets like toys. Streetlights flickered, then went dark. One witness filmed as water smashed through her living room window. She said, "The bottle went first, then the couch, then the whole house started shaking." At Fairmont State University, water poured into dorm basements. By the time alerts hit people's phones, entire neighborhoods were underwater. In Philadelphia, families climbed onto rooftops waving flashlights, while others clung to trees as mobile homes drifted away. Firefighters could hear voices calling for help, but the flood was too strong. Power lines cracked and sparked, roads vanished, and as the clock struck 9 p.m., the state was in complete darkness. Emergency crews were overwhelmed. Calls flooded in, people trapped in attics, families stranded in cars, children crying for help. In Ohio County, a father and son were found clinging to a tree, their truck washed away nearly half a mile downstream. In Philadelphia, rescuers waded through chest-deep water to save a woman standing on her overturned car, pulling her out just moments before the current took it under. By dawn, the full scale of destruction came to light. Homes gone, power lines down, lives changed forever. Meteorologists called it a once-in-a-lifetime flood, fueled by warm, trapped air and relentless rain. But in the middle of the wreckage, hope survived. Neighbors pulled strangers to safety. Communities came together. Because in West Virginia, when the mountains break, the people rise. The storm hit with no mercy. Power lines sparked in the distance, glowing electric blue before vanishing into darkness. Whole neighborhoods went silent as the lights died out. Firefighters pushed forward with only flashlights, following the sound of rushing water and desperate cries for help. At Fairmont State University, students crowded in the hallways, watching from windows as sidewalks disappeared under rising water. It sounded like the whole street was being ripped apart, one student said. Everywhere you looked, chaos reigned, but so did courage. Neighbors formed human chains to pull people from flooded homes. Churches opened their doors to anyone seeking shelter. By midnight, West Virginia wasn't just battling a storm, it was fighting fear itself. Meteorologists later called it the perfect storm of extremes. A surge of tropical moisture from the Gulf collided with a cold front from the Great Lakes, trapping violent energy right over northern West Virginia. The storm didn't move, it just kept dumping rain, hour after hour. Radar showed rainfall hitting over 8 inches per hour, far beyond what any local stream or drainage system could take. In the steep valleys of Appalachia, gravity turned that rain into a raging force, ripping through hollows and towns like an unstoppable wave. Dr. Hannah Cole from the National Weather Service explained it best. When this much rain falls in a mountain basin, the land itself becomes the flood. She wasn't exaggerating. The water moved like it was alive, fast, wild, and unforgiving. This wasn't just bad luck. Scientists have warned for years, warmer air means heavier storms. What used to be a once-in-a-century flood now happens every few years. And for America's mountain towns, that truth is becoming impossible to ignore. By sunrise, the rain had finally stopped, but the heartbreak was just beginning. Officials confirmed 4 lives lost, including a 3-year-old child swept away from a family home along a creek in Ohio County. 5 others are still missing, last seen near washed-out roads and broken bridges. In the city of Wheeling, the streets looked like a war zone. Children's toys tangled in fences, furniture stuck in trees, and pickup trucks flipped over by the raging current. It happened so fast, one survivor said. We didn't even have time to grab our shoes. Across the region, families found shelter in local school gyms. Volunteers showed up with coffee, blankets, and comfort. The Red Cross brought mobile kitchens and crisis counselors, while churches opened their doors to anyone who needed a safe place to stay. Thousands were still without power. Gas leaks forced more evacuations. In Fairmont, rescue teams used inflatable boats to reach stranded residents trapped in second-story windows. But even in the middle of all the pain, there were moments of courage. A firefighter pulled an elderly couple to safety just seconds before their home gave way. A teenage boy led his neighbors through waist-deep water to higher ground. For many people, it wasn't just their homes that were destroyed. It was their sense of security, their peace of mind, their community. By the next morning, West Virginia's emergency response was fully underway. Governor Patrick Morrisey declared a state of emergency, activated the National Guard, and began coordinating with FEMA to bring in federal aid. This tragedy has left deep scars across these mountain towns. But even through the heartbreak, the people here are standing strong, together. More than 100 emergency workers were out there, firefighters, medics, and rescue divers, battling mud-clogged roads and flooded valleys just to reach the survivors. Helicopters flew low over the Ohio River Valley, scanning the ground for anyone still missing. Down below, high-water trucks pushed through submerged streets, while rescue boats carried stranded families to safety. In Fairmont, firefighters worked around the clock, 18 hours straight, using infrared drones to find people trapped in their attics. The American Red Cross handed out thousands of hot meals and medical supplies. Local churches and schools opened their doors, turning into makeshift shelters for those who had lost everything. Utility crews from Pennsylvania and Kentucky rolled in to help restore power, but even as night fell, thousands were still left in the dark. Federal engineers showed up to assess the destruction. Bridges bent and broken, roads torn apart, gas lines ruptured. Early estimates suggested the damage could reach tens of millions of dollars. And even as the water slowly pulled back, new dangers emerged. Sinkholes, mudslides, and unstable ground made recovery a constant risk. For West Virginia, this wasn't just about cleaning up after a disaster. It was about learning to breathe again after nearly drowning. All right, here we are, deep in the heart of West Virginia. The storm has passed, but the silence that follows feels heavy. Across these valleys, one question echoes: how did this happen so fast? Meteorologists call it a once-in-500 years flood. But for the people living here, it feels like déjà vu. Flood after flood, year after year, and each one hits harder than the last. Experts say the reason isn't mysterious, it's science. Warmer air traps more moisture, and when that moisture-filled air slams into the Appalachian Mountains, it doesn't just rain, it pours. Combine that with stripped forests and outdated drainage systems, and you've got a perfect storm for disaster. But the story isn't just about weather patterns and water levels. It's about people. Neighbors pulling neighbors from rising waters. Churches turning into shelters overnight. Strangers showing up with food, blankets, and hope. That's West Virginia. Strong, proud, and unbreakable. Still, resilience can only carry a community so far. What they need now is real preparation. Stronger flood barriers, faster warning systems, and building codes that match the world we live in today. A world where unpredictable weather has become the new normal. As one local man said, staring at what used to be his home, we can rebuild the houses. What we can't rebuild is time. The moments we lost trying to escape. The valley has spoken. The question now is, will the rest of the nation listen? I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. As the sun sets over the Appalachian Hills, the rivers still whisper, heavy, restless, and alive. The floodwaters may be pulling back, but the damage they left behind tells the real story. Twisted bridges, empty homes, streets buried in mud. From Wheeling to the Fairmont Hills, this wasn't just a storm. It was a wake-up call. A reminder of how quickly everything can change when nature takes control. One moment it's calm, the next chaos. But even in all this destruction, something incredible shines through: the strength of people. Neighbors helping neighbors. Strangers working side by side to clean up. Kids finding reasons to smile again as the sun finally breaks through the clouds. West Virginia has been here before, and it'll rise again, because that's what it does. But we can't forget what this storm taught us. The lessons buried under the debris matter more than ever. If the story touched you, don't just move on. Help spread the word. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep reminding the world that no matter how high the waters rise, the human spirit will always rise higher.